Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy, the Mad Guy again. I'm up here today with the next part of the top 25 wrestlers from the 80s to 2000s. Today I'm going to be doing 9 to 5. Or I might just do 9 to 6 and save the top 5 for the last video. Excuse me if I'm not 100% still, but my ear's been playing up. Oh, fucking hurt, man. I don't know what's going on with it. But anyway, we're going to start off with number 9, Owen Hart. Probably one of the most tragic wrestling deaths ever. I won't really go into the details of his passing, but if you know, you know. Owen Hart was, in many ways, one of the best wrestlers of the era. You know, he was, from the 80s and 90s, unfortunately passed away well before his time. But Owen Hart had an amazing career. At first, he was just known as Bret Hart's brother, but he really stood out. He broke away from Bret Hart. Who can forget that rivalry with Bret Hart, that first big rivalry. Owen Hart played the bad guy, he played the good guy, he was an amazing competitor as well. He had some amazing matches, they called him the Rocket in his early days, the Blue Blazer, the King of Hearts, Owen Hart was, he was more than Bret Hart's brother. He was more than just Bret Hart's brother. He was more than a Hart, basically. He was an amazing wrestler. He had the agility. He was fast in the ring. He was a great striker. When you seen Owen Hart in a match, whether you liked him or not back in the day, you had to respect just how good he was. Like I said, it's a shame that most people, when they mention Owen Hart, they just think of the Blue Blazer incident. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look it up online. Out of respect, I'm not going to go into details of it. But it was, it's a shame that, WWE have sort of not really done much with Owen Hart, and in terms of dedication. AEW have done a tournament. We know Owen Hart's going to be in the AEW video game. WWE haven't completely signed Owen Hart off their network programming. It's just one of them things that, they just won't mention it because it seemed like they focused too much on the incident and not enough on his actual career. But if you knew Owen Hart, he was an amazing person in real life, and one of the greatest of all times, and definitely deserved to be on this list. And in my opinion, Owen Hart was one of the greatest of all time. Definitely much better than people ever give him credit for, but he was definitely one of the best. At number 8, we have Mick Foley. Mick Foley had, 3 personas, Cactus Jack, Mankind, and Dude Love. But, Mick Foley was, in many ways, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He's done it all, man, Mick Foley was the hardcore specialist, He took wrestling to another level. Mankind would come out and he would have this mask on. He was creepy and he was weird and, pull his hair out and throw it everywhere. Who can forget that match with The Undertaker? The guy gets thrown off the top of the ring. Hell in a Cell, my God, he's broken in half. As God is my witness, he is broken in half. That match was insane. Cactus Jack, the hardcore specialist. Dude Love, the sort of, in your face, lovely guy. He had a great persona. Mick Foley is, is in many ways one of the greatest of all time. What that guy put his body through is unbelievable. You know, the guy probably got more scars than Rambo. It's crazy just how good of a wrestler he was. When you looked at him, you know, he wasn't your Hulk Hogan-esque superhero wrestler. He looked like someone that would, you know, clean toilets for a living. You know what I mean? He looked like just your average dad bod guy, you know. But he would just come around the ring, the mandible claw, you know, you stick those fingers down your throat and down your teeth and knock you out, you know. But he was a great example of a wrestler doesn't have to be this chiseled guy to be respected and to be loved. And Mick Foley has had an amazing career, and you know, he's a stand-up guy in real life. You know, he's a comedian, he's a children's book writer. You know, he's had an amazing career, both inside and outside of WWE. Of course, he was in ECW as well. But Mick Foley deserved to be on this list. And then we have at number 7, the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be, Bret Hart. Bret Hart was, in many ways, the best there was, the best there is, and the best there ever will be. He was a technician specialist, you know, he was a submission specialist. He could get in that ring and he could, you know, he could make you tap out, he could pin you. He had all of his technical expertise was fantastic. You know, he had an amazing in-ring career. You know, he was in many ways the face of the company. He took over from like the golden era, the Hulk Hogan era, and you know, in many ways, Bret Hart really personified wrestling in the late 80s and early 90s. You know, he was the guy. Who can forget some of the great rivalries he had? You know, some of those awesome matches with Owen Hart. You know, with you know, he was mostly a good guy, but he, you know, part of the Hart Foundation. You know, he would always come out the ring, you know, wearing the glasses. He'd put them on kids. You know, fans loved him. Of course, towards the end of the 90s, the end of the 90s, he sort of, everyone remembers that Montreal screw job. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's amazing just how that was unplanned, you know. And even Bret Hart to this day probably still couldn't figure out why it happened, you know. His rivalries with Stone Cold, with Shawn Michaels, you know, he's had amazing matches, and you know, he was a personified badass. You know, he looked like a rock star, but he could kick ass in the ring. You know, he could break your leg if he really wanted to. But Bret Hart will always be one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. And whether you liked him or not, and you know, the whole controversy before, you know, he left WWE and all of this, but there's no denying he was the greatest, and the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And then at number 6, we have Hulk Hogan. Now, I know Hulk Hogan had this, you know, controversy with WWE and stuff like that. And, you know, let's be honest, what wrestler hasn't had controversy in real life? I don't really care about the real life side of things, you know. But Hulk Hogan, if you were a kid in the 80s, Hulk Hogan personified the golden era. You know, he was the poster child of WWF. In many ways, he helped put WWF on the map. You know, he was the epitome of a superhero. You know, he was the good guy. You know, he would, you know, eat your breakfast, take your vitamins, say your prayers. You know, everyone's trying to tell you something, brother. Hulk Hogan just personified, you know, what it meant to be a wrestler in the 80s. You know, who can forget that match with Andre the Giant, the slam? You know, everyone still talks about the slam today. The guy was able to pick up, you know, a 500-pound man and slam him down. You know, still to this day, it's considered one of the greatest moments of all time in wrestling. You know, Hulk Hogan was, when anyone thinks of WWF, Hulk Hogan is always going to be there. You know, he's had an amazing career. Of course, he left WWE and went to WCW and Hollywood Hulk Hogan, but he had some amazing rivalries. You know, he fought all of the greats. Andre the Giant. You know, he's fought Macho Man, Ultimate Warrior, Jake the Snake, The Rock, Stone Cold. I think he fought Stone Cold. He probably did. The Rock. You know, who can forget that awesome Rock versus Hulk Hogan? You know, the changing of the guard type thing that they do every 10 years or so, where they have the previous face of the company versus the upcoming face of the company. Hulk Hogan was one of the greatest of all time, whether you like him or not. There's no denying that he was one of the epitome of wrestling. You know, I don't think anyone can deny just how iconic Hulk Hogan was. You know, yeah, that leg drop by today's standard, you never win with a leg drop today, but you know, he was this guy. He had all this intensity. You know, even when he was talking on the mic, he was sweating and he was shaking and, yeah, I'm gonna get you, brother. Hulk Hogan was one of the greatest of all time in the 80s, you know, even in the 90s in WCW and the rivalries. You know, there's no denying that the real American, I am a real American. Yeah, Hulk Hogan today is the often the bunt of a joke and meme central. But if you were a kid in the 80s and you saw Hulk Hogan, you felt special, man. You felt like you were part of something bigger. You know, Hulk Hogan in many ways was the John Cena of the 80s. You know, gotta say your prayers, brother. And as always, guys. But anyway, there we go. So up next we'll have the top 5 wrestlers of all time. You probably can guess who they are by now because I haven't mentioned them yet. But if you enjoyed today's video, feel free to leave a like and of course comment below. Let me know who your favourite wrestlers are. I played some Alice Madness Returns yesterday. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think I'm going to go back and play it. The game gets very stale pretty quickly. You know, you play it for about an hour and you think, oh, this is pretty awesome. But then after a while, you just realise the game is average at best, just with a really cool design to it. But yeah, I watched Age of Ultron as well last night, which actually I enjoyed more than the first time I watched it. My biggest gripe with it was Ultron was really comedic, in my opinion, and it just didn't. At the time, I didn't think it suited the Ultron character, but the second time round, I actually kind of enjoyed it a bit more. Tonight, I'm going to watch Puppet Master 2, and I'm going to start playing Warhammer Chaos Bane. I played Inquisitor a couple of years ago, and I enjoyed that, so I'm assuming it's going to be much of the same style of gameplay. So I'm going to try that one out. And as always, guys, subscribe if you haven't already and join the family. I'm going to go and have a quick shower now, and hopefully I don't get any water in my ear, because I don't think I've got an infection, but I think I've just got, you know, like when your ear starts to feel bunged up and every time you feel the movement in it, bloody hurts. But I think that's just part of having a cold and stuff. So, and as always, guys, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Mad Kiger, and have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and bye-bye.